Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the Pro Audio Suite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
Thanks to TriBooth, the best vocal booth for home or on-the-road voice recording. And Austrian Audio, making passion heard. Introducing Robert Marshall from Source Elements and Someone Audio Post, Chicago. Darren Robbo Robertson from Voodoo Radio Imaging, Sydney. Tech to the VO Stars, George the Tech Whittam from LA. And me, Andrew Peters, voiceover talent and home studio guy.
Line up, learner!
Here we go.
And welcome to another Pro Audio Suite, thanks to Austrian Audio, making passion heard, and TriBooth. Don't forget the code, TRIPAP 200, to get $200 off your TriBooth. Now, something new has been hitting the internet, and that is something new from Rode, and it's the NT1 5th generation. It's not only just a large condenser mic with an XLR cable, it's also got a USB cable.
This is more like the original, I hope this is more like the original NT1 that they made that they then tried to make worse with the NT1A.
Yes, that's right. Well, the NT1 is their large condenser mic, which they've sold, I would hate to guess how many they've sold. Hundreds of thousands of NT1s. So the 5th gen, what they've done is they've added the USB connectivity to the NT1.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool because you can just plug straight into your laptop without having an interface.
Kind of, but there's no headphone monitoring and it lacks the full interface. So what are you going to really do with that? I mean, you're definitely not going to get any low latency monitoring out of that setup.
You'll get low because
sure.
if you're recording, if you're sending a 32-bit float through your AD converter. And then punching that down USB, it's going to be quick. Like you could monitor this mic through Reaper or Pro Tools with, I'm not sure if it'll be absolutely unnoticeable, but usable latency. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
It'll be not too annoying. It's not going to be like an Elvis slap echo, that's for sure. But it does seem like a little bit of a half USB feature because it's not a full interface.
It's interesting that they chose to... There must be something about they want the mic to look like just a regular mic, but have this cool secret feature. Whereas the NT USB is literally all about being a USB mic, makes no bones about it. It has 2 big knobs on the side, so it's obviously got something going on. So maybe it's perception. It feels more pro because it doesn't have knobs and switches all over it. I don't know.
Or did they see what Shure did with the SM7 and sort of decide that we're going to do that? Maybe.
Oh, the MV3 or whatever it was called from Shure.
What did Shure do? Wasn't it the SM7B and they stuck a USB connectivity onto it or something? Didn't they?
Yeah, so it's got both, but it's a dynamic.
I think what's interesting about this is, okay, you have an XLR, you give it 48 volts, but then you plug in USB and somehow the USB, it's like that thing has got some sort of intelligent power supply to know where the diaphragm is getting its juice from.
Well, you know how they fix that problem?
How?
By putting the USB jack in the center of the XLR. You can't have both at the same time. So their problem's fixed.
I agree with that, but they do have some sort of like interesting way to the power supply of going from 5 volts to power the diaphragm and going from 24 volts to power. It's just different.
Well, you have to have a DC to DC converter to up step the voltage. You have to have preamp circuitry, an AD converter circuit. Obviously, no DA needed because there's no output, headphone out. There's, but there's a lot of negative space inside and inside a large diaphragm condenser mic with a body the size of a U87. There's a lot of room in there to put more electronics. So I guess I figured
There's not going to be a lot of room to plug in your USB cable because I know that on the NTG4, if you don't get the right cable, you're not plugging it in and it's not going to fit.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not much room in there. You can't use a USB-C with a big, thick, I don't know, a big, really big plug on it. It has to have a small plug, but it won't. Yeah, it's very clever packaging. Let's just put it that way. I thought for sure it was going to.
I think it adds value.
I thought for sure it was going to be like
it has long-term value.
The Yeti Pro, which has XLR and USB, but separated. You can use them simultaneously. So I was a little disappointed about that. That was my one little poo-poo. Then I thought, well, how often would I do that? And I'm like, I don't know.
Why would you do that?
You could use the USB as a 32-bit float backup to your main rig.
Yeah. Okay.
if you're self-recording. So that's kind of cool, but that's, again, a niche. For dBA, they still claim to be the lowest, quietest studio condenser mic, and I think they can hold that crown because even the quote-unquote Sub-Zero mic, have you heard of that one? By Lewitt?
No.
Oh, yeah.
They claim that, it's claimed to be below zero noise. Well, the electronics,
zero VU.
The electronics are zero VU, but the capsule, when you add that on, it's about 4. It's about 4 dB. Yeah. So it's similar, about the same. Bottom line is the damn thing's quiet. But what would be the gain setting for the preamp if you're recording in 32-bit float? Robert, what would you set the gain to on the internal preamp for that use case?
Well, I think that recording float directly means nothing because you're really recording technically 23-bit, I think, on 32-bit float, because it's all about the big number until you change the gain after the fact, where the float thing becomes an advantage. Before you record, you're recording at your level with no modification up or down, so there's no benefit to... I've never understood this, why anybody thinks it's a good idea to create a float recorder. You're just recording 23 bits with a bunch of zeros at the end of it that someone can change later to adjust the gain without loss. But until then, you're just collecting empty data.
So does it matter so much what you set your gain to in the software for the Rode? Because it connects to Rode Connect and Rode Connect and Rode Central, and you can adjust the gain. And
it does. It's the same thing. I mean, it's still a 23-bit, which is 24-bit, which means you can record ridiculously low and still capture at least or better than 16-bit resolution, which is what anybody is going to consider a usable recording. So it still has that same thing, but I'm just saying when you record directly into float, you're filling the first side of the word, which is like the description of the waveform. You're capturing that waveform at whatever bit depth you can. And then the advantage to float is later you give somebody the sound file and they can add or remove gain to it without permanently destroying that description of the waveform. But if you don't get a really good description of the waveform at the beginning, it doesn't matter. So when you record into a number, you would get the exact same resolution recording 24-bit and just converting the file to float as you would just recording directly into float.
Is it about clipping though? Is that why they've done the 32-bit float? So you don't clip?
That's the theory.
After the fact, though, it's like you can add gain and then you're like, oh, I clipped it. And then you can turn the gain away.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. So what would be the right gain setting if you're recording in 32-bit float?
I would hit around -12. It's the same rules as fixed point, because until you're done recording, the benefit of float is zero. Float is all about post-processing or something you do to the signal after you capture it. If you're sending it to the idea of float in real time would be you capture at 32-bit float and then you send it into a compressor and you compress the hell out of it in a compressor, and normally it would distort, but then you can just turn the output gain in the compressor, like after the compressor is done distorting it, you could still turn the volume down and you would undistort it because the volume is a parameter of the file instead of baked into the file. But what you capture is baked into it. The initial capture is baked in. It's what you do after that you can turn the volume into a parameter that you can like clip something and unclip it by turning it down. I don't know if I'm confusing people about the nature of 32-bit.
I was confused right from the beginning, quite frankly. That's okay. Carry on.
You're constantly confused, though. Come on.
George, is this making sense to anybody?
Yes.
I guess?
Most of it.
You're making sense to me.
Most of it. Not all of it. Most of it. Yeah.
Well, it's like having a drawing a line across a waveform, and then anything above that line is clipping. But you're actually after the fact you can actually move that line above what was clipped, and then all of a sudden it's not clipped. That's what I'm kind of...
You first have to capture the waveform unclipped before you can clip it and then unclip it. But if you capture the waveform clipped, it's clipped.
But if it was clipped, it would only clip if you're actually overriding the actual capsule too hard. Is that correct? Or are you talking...
Or the electronics. So you have an A to D converter, right? And the A to D converter is saying, I see this waveform and I'm going to describe it with 23 bits. And so I think I forget exactly how it is, but 32-bit means that the word is split into two sections. There's a 23 or 24-bit word, which describes the waveform, and then there's an 8-bit number that describes the gain.
Yeah.
When you first record, the gain is 0. I mean, do you have a gain knob inside you, Andrew, that you are turning up and down that somehow you can
absolutely.
impart into this file?
Yeah, I do.
Right. It's capturing it at 0 gain.
Yep.
And then after that, you can mess with the gain of the file. So think of 32-bit as like a file that has a gain knob attached to it.
Yeah.
And if you turn the gain and you give it to somebody else, they can turn the gain down. Compared to with fixed point, you turn the gain up on your file, you give it to somebody else, they can turn the gain down, but the change to the waveform of you turning the gain up,
the damage is already done.
Permanent.
The
damage is done, and you can't undo it.
Yeah.
But if you're capturing it, you're just trying to get a good picture of the sound, and that doesn't change if you're recording 32-bit or 24-bit. So to answer George's question, the rules are exactly the same. Try to capture around -12. Really watch out if you're getting somewhere between -3 and -6. Or -6 and -3, and really don't try to hang out above -3 because that's truly like, your headroom. The exact same rules as 24-bit recording, I think, because there's no benefit like to recording directly to
I found a really good article about this just now on Sound Devices website, sounddevices.com. Mm-hmm. They have an article called 32-bit float files explained, and it really gets into the math and has a really good graphical illustrations that explain different bit word lengths and all this. It's a good article. So if you want to supplement this, take a look at this on sounddevices.com. It's a really good explanation.
Well, the other thing that needs explaining really is who are they targeting with this microphone?
I think that people who want to get a USB microphone, but in their heart know that if it doesn't have an XLR jack, it's probably going to be a limited investment. Like the mic will have more uses, more professional uses as an XLR mic compared to a USB mic.
The thing I think would be a plus for what we do is that, imagine you're on the road, you take that mic with you, you've got your interface, you've got your laptop, you're about to do a session and your interface shits its pants.
My Rode AI1 never shit its pants.
Yeah, that's good.
What if you're on the road and you've been partying the night before and you shit your pants?
Yeah, there's that as well. Just while you're sitting on your interface.
That's it.
That wouldn't be good. That would not be good.
Well, I think it's it's obviously a miss for multiple audiences, but I think it's mainly for creators.
Yeah.
Who are going to talk into a camera and want the best possible sounding mic captured directly into their system.
Yep.
And then they've got an ATEM, blah, 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 some super duper video switcher. That's shit for audio. So now they have two different audio streams. They have their mic stream and they have their ATEM, which, I've talked to enough creators and media producers to know that the audio in an ATEM, those little Blackmagic video switchers that people love, is crap. So for them to buy a mic with a great sounding AD converter, plug and play and go, and just add it as an input in their OBS or whatever their video switcher. Are you guys hearing all the notification things? Damn it! You should have told me. I'm sorry. It's coming out of so many places. I don't even know what you guys can hear.
I think also Andrew's point is a backup interface. It's not bad if you're traveling. It's like a backup interface in one.
Yeah.
But should we stuff a microphone into your interface so that you have a backup microphone?
You mean the Apogee One?
So if you, So if you're, that's right.
Which was an interface with a built-in backup microphone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of the few, one of the only I know of. Do you know of any other audio interfaces with a built-in backup microphone or a microphone at all?
I believe Roland made it was the Roland Cakewalk interface, and I believe it had a microphone in it for some bizarre reason, like a little square hole in the thing. I mean, if you don't count the TalkBack mic in the various interfaces, not really.
No.
I mean,
and it wasn't all that great either. I tried it out. It sounded just as good as the mic in my iPad at the time, but it had one.
Right.
I thought Roland was the headless Thompson gunner. Maybe that's another Roland.
For those Australians who used to listen to Doug Mulray, I'm reminded of Roland Roller Doors from Roland Roller Doors Roller Doors. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
At the House of M's. Oh, excuse me for a second, will you? Hello, Doug Mulray, Triple M.
Hey, g'day. Is that Doug Mulray?
Yes, who's this?
This is Roland Rollador.
Roland Rollador.
Yeah, Roland Rollador from Roland Rollador's Rollador.
Now, hang on a minute. Your name is Roland Rollador,
Yeah.
and you sell rolladors.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that it?
Yeah.
It's a funny sort of coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I never really saw it that way before. Geez, they told me you were quick. You're the smart one of the family, were you, Mulray?
Roland Rollador from Roland Roller Doors Roller Doors.
Now I'm just thinking of like rolling.
Yeah, there you go. There's another one.
Yeah.
Rawhide.
Just as an aside, that I was just looking at when you mentioned that the Sub-Zero microphone before, George. I've never heard of it and went and had a look. And they've got a pencil condenser, and it's got interchangeable capsules. It comes with 3 different capsules on a pencil mic, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Are they compatible with like AKG CK1 series?
I have no idea. It doesn't really give away too
Lewitt.
much, to be honest with
Lewitt is one of the ex-AKG guys.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
you. Okay.
But they broke away from AKG before AKG really threw the whole towel in.
They did. I think they did. I'm not 100% on that, but
Lewitt's been around for a while.
Well,
yeah.
that's super interesting because Lewitt was Lewitt was one of the first ones to do the dual diaphragm output for each diaphragm, like the OC818. They were one of the first companies like that, and Sphere.
Yeah. Well, it's got 3 capsules. So it's cardioid, supercardioid, and Omni for this pencil mic. And it's £39.
Does it say anything about CK1?
Wow.
Is it the LTC40? Which mic is it?
The SZC100. S for Sam, Z for Zero, C for Charles, 100. 3 interchangeable capsules.
Fascinating. You wouldn't want to know what came up on mine when I Google searched that. But it's going to take me a while to get that washed out of my mind.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The Pro Audio Suite, with thanks to Tribooth and Austrian Audio. Recorded using Source Connect. Edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Voodoo Radio Imaging with tech support from George the Tech Whittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, theproaudiosuite.com.